Hey everybody, welcome back to FSi DFS. Simon Kinley 412. We're looking at the 4-game early slate for Saturday here, and man, what a slate it is. Half the pitchers have an ERA or an expected ERA of 6 or higher, possibly 5. What I mean by that is Wainwright, he hasn't pitched yet in the majors, but his minor league rehab starts have not gone well at all. So it could be ugly for him too. So 4-game slate, we can go game by game breakdown. We do have the sheet. I'll just spoil everything right now. It's ugly in terms of pitching. No interest in a lot of those guys, and then the bats are just kind of where they're at. But let's talk about this here real quick. So first game, St. Louis against Detroit. It is Turnbull versus Wainwright. Like I said, Wainwright, he has not done very well in his minor league rehab starts. You can see, just reading down here, he went AA, AAA, 9 earned runs in just 13 innings in AA ball and AAA. Neither of these guys strikeout guys pretty much at all. Wainwright's strikeout rate last season was in the high teens. Turnbull is essentially hovering right around there, if not a little bit lower. So two pitchers who are just, they don't induce swinging strikes. They can't strike anybody out. They do both get hit fairly-ish hard. Turnbull more so than Wainwright. But the one thing that Turnbull does have going for him is that, he's a ground ball pitcher. He induces a lot of ground balls on the season. But that's pretty much it. That's it for Turnbull. St. Louis is still probably going to be a popular stack. Maybe a little bit less so just because of how much they have struggled so far this season. I think I saw the record is they got the worst record in the National League. I do think a little bit of that is more on the pitching end of things because their pitching has been just atrocious to start the year. So I don't really have any interest in Wainwright. Poor minor league rehab starts, but also just, coming off the IL. Not a whole lot of interest there. And then Turnbull. I just don't have any interest. Yeah, he does induce some ground balls, but I just, no. On the bat side of things, I have interest in both sides. For Detroit, they're super, super cheap. Most expensive guy is only $3.2K. Javi Baez, he's been lighting it up as of late, so you can kind of just check his game logs here. I don't know, out of habit. But Baez has done very well as of late. He's got excellent numbers over the past 2-3 weeks or so. Pretty much anybody in Detroit is going to be somebody you're going to have some interest in just because of how cheap they are, and they can really open up salary. Guys like Green, McKinstry, Maton at third base are probably the guys that I'd be targeting. First off, if you're going with the Detroit route, on the St. Louis side of things, I did mention that Turnbull, he does induce a lot of ground balls, but he's still Turnbull. He doesn't strike anybody out. He's still got an ERA or an expected ERA over 6, close to 7. He's just not a good pitcher, not a good major league pitcher at all. So on the St. Louis side of things, obviously you're going to have Goldschmidt just because, he's kind of leading the charge. But I'm looking more towards the lefties, guys with better numbers there. So guys like Newt Barr, Edmund switch hitter, Burleson, he's really fallen off. He had a great, excellent, start to the season, but he's kind of fallen off ever since then. Carlson, I wish he'd bet higher up in the lineup, but only 2.5K. But still, I don't think you're really going to really need the salary, even though we are probably paying up at pitcher, just because Detroit offers so much value across their entire lineup. I don't think you're going to have to be, playing a bottom order cheap guy on St. Louis. Miami versus Chicago. Smiley versus Hoeing. Hoeing, he's another guy that is just a fade for me. Just have no interest at all. The weather report looks like it's going to be in the high 50s temperature-wise, but also a wind blowing out. So Wrigley, we know by now in MLB DFS, is much more impacted by the wind than other ballparks. So I'm going to have a lot more interest in the bats, but still. Smiley, he's probably going to be my SP2, just because there's nothing else to choose. Yeah, the winds are blowing out, but he's shown what his upside can be. He hasn't really, he had that one start against the Dodgers. Let's see. Dodgers. That went really well, 40 DK points. Everything else outside of that, it's been okay. But okay is good on this pitching slate for me. So facing Miami, they have a lot of strikeouts in their lineup, so I'm going to have some interest in him there. Doesn't mean that I'm like off the Miami hitters at all. Like Soler against left-handed pitching so far this season has crushed it. Overall in the season, he hasn't really crushed it, but against lefties specifically, he's done very well. So Miami can, they can give you some nice value there if you're looking for it. On the Chicago side of things, like I said, going up against Hoeing. Hoeing's not a great pitcher. He's got an expected ERA close to 8 in his couple of starts. He hasn't gone very long. He's only had a couple of starts here in the majors. But he allows a lot of hard contact, some fly balls. So all the perfect recipe, which is why Chicago is going to be my favorite stack on the entire slate. It's going to be your usual guys. It's going to be Horner. It's going to be Happ. Even Bellinger. Nice lefty-righty matchup. He could be a guy that you could be plugging in to your lineups. Mancini, still super cheap at 2.6K. I do wonder if he's ever going to get bumped up a little. But I do love Horner. I do love Happ. Guys like Bellinger, all that kind of stuff for the stolen base upside. So Chicago is my favorite stack on the slate. Just facing probably the worst pitcher on the slate on top of having the winds blowing out in Chicago. I do wish the temperature was a little bit warmer, but it is what it is. Tampa Bay, New York, Rasmussen versus Herman. This is your two best pitchers, and even like your two best pitchers, like they don't have the highest strikeout rates at all. Taking like this season's data and last season's data, they're both in the low 20% strikeout rate. So paying 5 figures for a guy with a low 20% strikeout rate isn't always the greatest. But he's shown that. He can still control games, and he's facing the Yankees lineup that's really, really banged up right now. So Smiley Rasmussen is probably going to be a pretty popular two-pitcher combo in cash builds. GPP, obviously go crazy, but this is probably going to be a pretty popular pairing in my opinion. On the Yankee side of things, I just don't really have any interest in the Yankees at all, if I'm being completely honest. Like no Judge, no Stanton. Obviously, Donaldson's been out the whole year. But like, I don't want to be paying this much salary going up against the best pitcher on this slate. So don't really have any interest in the Yankees here. On the Tampa Bay side of things, I think I did rank them. Well, I got them ranked second in GPP. I thought it was just because they're so expensive. Two guys over 6K, Diaz at 5.5K, Lowe at 4.8. But I do think a lot of them are, excellent plays, even though going up against Herman, probably the second best pitcher on the slate. The only issue is that Herman just doesn't allow a lot of hard contact. He keeps the soft contact there, keeps the hard contact at a minimum. But guys like Yandy Diaz, Franco, Josh Lowe, they're probably going to be my biggest interest. Ramirez. Rayleigh, 3.3K. He could be a nice little value play if you're looking for some value as well. I would probably prefer him more in the outfield because if we sort... Yeah, there's going to be a lot of guys like Alonso, a nice lefty-righty matchup. We love Alonso against lefties. So maybe throw Alonso at first base. But that means that you don't get Yandy Diaz for Tampa Bay. But maybe you go with a Rayleigh who's super cheap. At 3.3K. I just kind of noticed I'm building as I'm doing this. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But still, 3K remaining for this. Not bad. So that's pretty much it with the Tampa Bay Yankees game. And then Colorado against the Mets. Gomber and McGill. McGill has had just, not a great start to the season. We'll just pull up his numbers here. Yeah, he's allowing multiple runs in pretty much every single start that he's going against. And then Gomber is just, no. Hard pass. Both these guys have an expected ERA over 6 on the season, and it's just not great. Excuse me. On the Mets side of things, I already talked about Alonso. Anytime Alonso is facing a left-handed pitcher, you're going to have some serious interest in him. I'm definitely going to be, taking the 5.7K hit with his salary. After that, the Mets are pretty affordable, all things considered. They've, definitely been on like a downward trend in terms of their bats over the past, week or two. But I'm not even paying attention too much against the lefty-righty matchups, if I'm being completely honest, in this one. I think Nimmo is just far too cheap at sub 4K with his stolen base upside and just like, his ability to hit where he bats, in the order. I think sub 4K is just far too cheap for him, so I'm going to have some interest in Nimmo. Lindor is definitely in there. Tommy Pham, he's got nice numbers against right-handed or against left-handed pitching, so if he's in, he could be a nice other value play for you at 2.5K. On the Colorado side of things, am I thrilled with them? No, but they're definitely guys that you can throw in there. Krejcik probably has the best numbers when I was looking against right-handed pitching so far on the season, but I mean it's very, very limited. You can see he's only played in 5 games, so take it for what it is with that small sample size. But guys like Blackman and Cron, just making sure I'm not missing anybody. Yeah, I would just stick up near the top with Colorado. Nobody super cheap on their side that I have much interest in at all. So, that kind of covers the slate. Here's the sheet again. Pitchers wise, I mean, Rasmussen, Herman, Smiley, McGill. And even this is like McGill is like a gap. McGill, I don't hardly have too much interest in. So I think based on elimination, Rasmussen and Smiley is going to be a very popular matchup. I think Chicago is going to be your favorite stack, or is my favorite stack, especially with the winds blowing out. The Mets, absolutely love them. Alonso is going to be one of the first guys in my lineup, even at that hefty price tag. St. Louis, I think they should be a more top tier stack, but with the bats struggling a little bit, and just with the super high ground ball rate of Turnbull, maybe there's not as much home run upside with this team, but he's still a bad pitcher, so they're still a top stack on the slate. And then GPP Colorado, I think I'm going to talk myself around this. I think I'm going to put Tampa Bay here, and then Colorado. I might even put Miami ahead of Colorado, but McGill's just really, really struggled so far this season. Detroit's super cheap. This is the team, and I like them. Just because they're not over here in the top tier doesn't mean I don't like them. I like them a lot. They're super cheap, and they're going to open everything up for you in terms of salary. This is not a core by any means. This is not exactly what our core is going to be looking like. If you do want that, come check down in the description below. Come join us at FSi DFS. I think it's only $2-3 if you want to join for a single day. Maybe even DM us. We can maybe make it even a deal, make it even cheaper. Who knows? We'll see. Maybe I shouldn't have even said that. I don't know. But I do appreciate you guys watching. We're going to have some notes possibly for the main slate down in the comment section for the main slate. I don't know, though. I got a very hectic day schedule-wise, but apologies in advance. So if I don't get in there, apologies in advance. But thanks for watching, as always. Good luck in your contest, and we'll see you in the next one.